Mornin. I'm back with more S3 content, and today I want to touch on Triple Inkstrike. It's in one of the least talked about specials so far in 3, after doing some labbing, plus getting a better handle on the special. I wanted to talk about how good it is for displacement, and the utility it has against other special weapons in the game. But before we get too in-depth first, I want to touch on the basics of it. Triple Inkstrike's range is comparable to E-Leader's range, which is about 6.5 lines in the chesting range, and the max damage Tripstrike is capable of is 275, while its minimum damage is 25. The capsules you throw out to use Triple Inkstrike can attach themselves to the ground and walls, meaning you can get pretty creative on where and how you place them in a match. As I mentioned in the intro, the next thing I want to touch on is Triple Inkstrike's utility against other specials in the game, since this hasn't really been well documented and these interactions are worth going over. Without Object Shredder and using only one Tripstrike, it's able to break Wave Breaker, Big Bubbler, Booyah Bomb, and Crap Tank. Again, I would like to stress that all of this is without Object Shredder. It also only takes 2 Tripstrikes to pop Rainmaker Shield without OS, but that doesn't end Tripstrike's positive interactions in other specials, as it cannot get sucked up by Ink Vac at all. None of the capsules you throw out can get sucked up by Vac, and the Ink Vac user is only able to get a charge off of the Inkstrikes themselves, but they still can't cancel them. This puts Tripstrike in a really unique spot, being one of the few ways to counter Vac in the game, as even if the Ink Vac user decides to use the Inkstrikes to get their shot off, you can still force them to back up, or you can move them to a spot that makes them easier to deal with. Tripstrike is also extremely useful in tower control because of how it breaks Big Bubbler with one strike, meaning you could stop people from using Big Bubble to get through checks, and then still have 2 other strikes to throw down to clear ledges, or make space for yourself and your team to push forward. The biggest thing that made me think about Tripstrike more was the interactions into Booyah Bomb. Machine has been a very popular weapon as of late, with comps in a JP Turf War tournament running double or even triple Machine. Booyah Bomb as a special has also been highly rated for its ability to split space, stop TC and Rainmaker checkpoints, and what space it can create to help your team on retake. Triple Inkstrike breaks Booyah armor in one strike, when you commit 1 strike to shredding a Booyah Bomb and still have the other 2 strikes to use for creating space for your team to retake the map, or deal with other specials that are being popped to stop your retake. Some counterplay against Booyah Bomb is really important, since Machine will definitely be a meta staple as time goes on, so it's another point in Tripstrike's favor. Having gone over the utility, space making, and displacement the special has, I want to take a moment to touch on what weapons in the game have Tripstrike so far, those being Slosher, Rapid, and Vanilla Umbrella. I won't be touching much on Vanilla Umbrella in this video, since I don't have much experience with it, but I still think it's worth giving it a shot if you want a Tripstrike in your comp. That being said, I want to take time to touch on both Slosher and Rapid. Slosher is one of the best Tripstrike users in the game that we have right now, since Spot Bomb is a really nice complement to Tripstrike, since again it works off of the damage that Tripstrike does, and helps you to create space along with your sloshes. But where Slosher really shines is using Tripstrike to effectively take space and force your opponents to take fights with you in disadvantageous positions. As an example, Slosher can pop Tripstrike to force an opponent forward, and as they're being displaced, move up to cover the remaining escape option to secure the kill, or force opponents back while it gets into a better position. Slosher should be following up after its Tripstrikes thanks to its ability to hit over walls, and its damage being high and consistent, especially with the lack of ink armor in this game. Pair this with subs like Burst Bomb, Torp, Fizzy, and other bombs to help displace and chip opponents, and suddenly a Slosher moving up after forcing you to move with Tripstrike and more chip damage being thrown at you gets a lot scarier. Just like Slosher, Rapid is also a really strong user of Tripstrike in this game, since it benefits from having a sub that complements Tripstrike being Inkmine. Inkmine means Rapid has something to place as it moves up and wants to take space, and you can place Inkmines around you so that if you get rushed down, mine's 30 damage means unless they hit a direct and anyone rushing at you can possibly die if you do hit that direct. Mine plus Tripstrike also means that Rapid can use the special to take up space and then immediately hold that space down by getting itself set up with Inkmines and using its shots to pepper opponents with chip damage. If you pair this with other chip damage weapons, subs, and specials, this kit gets a lot stronger. Epic can also reliably follow up on the displacement that Tripstrike gives by forcing its opponents to either drop in bad positions, give up space to the Tripstrike, along with being backed up with your shots, which do a minimum of 35 damage in combination with other subs. It's a lot of chip damage, paint, and displacement. Another important note is how Special Power-Up affects Triple Inkstrike. Special Power-Up increases the range that you can throw Tripstrike's capsules at. For reference, without any SPU on Tripstrike, its range is comparable to E-Leader's. With only a main, you can throw your Tripstrike from the top left of your spawn on Scorch's Rainmaker to pop shield. SPU is definitely important to consider on Tripstrike, as it'll allow you to be a bit safer when you pop it since your throwing range has increased. This wouldn't be a good review of the special if I didn't take time to touch on some of its common criticisms and cons. I don't think that comparing the special to Booyah, Missile, or 5.1 is really fair, since they all aim to displace opponents in different ways. Booyah takes a bit longer than Tripstrike, but it has a bigger radius and puts down more paint. 5.1 and Missile both lean a bit more on the info they give than their displacement, the Missile being a bit slower than Tripstrike and 5.1 not painting as well as Tripstrike. The point being here is that all these displacement specials are good. It's not a matter of which one is better than the other. What matters is what maps and situations you want to run which in. Tripstrike is really strong in tower control and rainmaking, since it's clear to see what space you need to take to both stop pushes and start your own. Tripstrike isn't really great on zones despite what it's based off of being Splatoon 1 Inkstrike, due to its low pain output and small hitbox. But I really think that Tripstrike will shine on maps with narrow, skinny zones. If the zone is wide, they really won't be able to do much in assisting with caps or creating the space needed to help your team re-enter the map. A great example of a zones map that Tripstrike is able to thrive on is Mincemeat Metalworks, solely because of how narrow the zone is. I do want to take more care to touch on Tripstrike's flaws, since I've been rather high on it this entire video. That being its learning curve and how you can't use it as a panic button, since you can't go into swim form while the special is active. Other displacement specials are a lot more forgiving on when they could be popped, but Tripstrike needs to be used with the knowledge of not only where you want to throw it, but being ready to commit after you've thrown it out. Its size is also small compared to Booyah, and there will be some situations that you'll prefer Booyah's larger hitbox over Tripstrike's. To wrap this video up, I want to say that I hope this sparks more conversation about the special and its potential use cases and comps, as I think that between Tripstrike's positive utility in shutting down other specials, on top of its ability to create and split space on maps, makes it really good. Especially as we get updates and more weapons get this special. Please consider giving Rapid and Slosher a shot in your comps. I think both are really strong weapons right now, especially Rapid being able to outzone Machine, and with Tripstrike's positive utility into Booyah being able to break armor in one Tripstrike. I really think that Rapid will be an important part in shutting down Machine and making sure it doesn't run everywhere. But I wanted to just thank y'all for watching this video, and I'll see you next time with whatever content the lab produces next.